Today I'm going to break down 3 football trades that I've won on Betfair in the past week or so, netting a total profit of £19.61. Each trade uses a different trading strategy, so stay tuned for the 3 strategies I've used and how I've implemented them profitably. If you're enjoying this content and want to see more trading breakdown videos like this, you can check out the link to my Patreon in the description below, where I've got a growing catalogue of trading videos exactly like this. We're going to start with an under 2.5 goals trade in the game between West Brom and Blackburn. For this strategy, I'm using the principles that I laid out in my under 2.5 goals strategy video, which you can check out on my channel if that's something that you're interested in. Now, I don't know how much you know about Championship football, but West Brom and Blackburn are both teams towards the top end of the Championship, especially Blackburn in 3rd place. And West Brom have been free-falling a little bit. They dropped down to 9th place, and that is why they brought in a new manager, Steve Bruce. With both teams towards the top of the table, you might expect that both teams are in good goal scoring form. But Blackburn have only scored 2 goals in their previous 7 games, and West Brom have failed to score in 6 of their previous 8 matches. And 2 teams which are struggling for goals is a perfect opportunity to implement an unders goals trade strategy. But we do need to make sure of a few things before we dive into the market and enter a position. Firstly, what are the odds? Because if the odds are too short, then there's just no point in entering into the market. And for this game, the under 2.5 goals market was priced at odds of 1.74. Those odds are a little bit short, but this is a championship, and the championship on average has fewer games that end with over 2.5 goals compared to other leagues, the Premier League for example. 53% of games have finished with under 2.5 goals in the Championship this season. So you would expect the average odds in the under 2.5 goals market for the typical Championship game to be around 1.88. For this game, the odds are obviously a little bit shorter than that. And typically, I prefer to trade games where the odds are well above this average starting price for your expected league. But it is still something that you can work with if you believe that the game is suitable for the strategy. As I explained in my strategy video, the true edge for this strategy comes in finding games where you expect there to be a slow start with a lack of goals from either team. And with this game, I really expected a dull affair between the 2 teams, particularly in the first half. As I mentioned, both teams have been struggling in front of goal recently. West Brom at home are especially having dull first halves in the Championship. Something that I touched on earlier in the video is that West Brom have a new manager, but I hardly expect Mr. Steve Bruce to improve that proficiency problem in front of goal. If anything, he's going to make them more solid defensively based off his previous managerial post at Newcastle. So they are the reasons I decided to enter into this trade, and I entered into the trade by backing with a £20 stake in the unders goal market just before kick-off. I used quite a high stake there, but because I believe that these teams are in such poor goal scoring form, I believe that this was a relatively low risk position, which enabled me to use slightly larger stakes, which is very important because if you're in a high risk trade, you obviously don't want to be using high stakes. And now for exit points, I wasn't going to trade this game with such rigid exit points. The game was on TV, so it enabled me to watch the game and judge how likely I thought that goals were likely to be scored. Obviously I had the pre-match research which suggests they wouldn't, but the important thing is what is actually happening. With the game being on TV, I was able to watch and see if the game was planning out how I initially planned it to be, which was being very dull. I was consistently keeping a track of the trade by tracking the under 1.5 goals market, because I know the price of that market will be approximately what the price of the under 2.5 goals market will be in the event a goal is scored, so I'll be able to track my potential loss at each point in the game. As the game went in play, my immediate thought was, when can I start taking out of my position by placing corresponding lay bets in the under 2.5 goals market. This obviously reduces my potential overall profit from the trade, but it significantly reduces my loss in the event that a goal is scored, and obviously risk management is very important. I'm using £2.50 stakes to incrementally exit out of this position. Each £2.50 increment represents 12.5% of my overall starting stake, the £20, and I put my first stake in approximately 10 ticks below the starting price at odds of 1.65. In this game, the time decay was really quite slow, which is obviously annoying when you want the price to be coming in as quickly as possible. And broadly speaking, this is obviously one of the drawbacks of entering into this strategy using relatively short odds. However, watching the game on TV, I knew that there was nothing to be concerned of in terms of how the teams were playing, in terms of if goals were looking likely. The game was a drab affair. I put my second lay bet into the market, another 10 ticks below my first lay bet, at odds of 1.55, and this gets matched approximately 5 minutes after my first lay bet got matched. These were the stats in the game so far. Clearly, nothing to really worry about, neither team had a shot on target yet, and the game was pretty much panning out how I anticipated that it would do. After my second lay bet was match, my potential loss, in the event of a goal, I dropped down all the way down to -£5. This is only a quarter of my overall starting stake, the £20. It's really nice now I only have 25% of my overall stake really at risk here, compared to what would be around 50% at the start of the game. My next lay bet goes in at odds of 1.46, my next £2.50, and now we're in a really good position where our maximum potential loss is down all the way at -£2.90, and we could even cash out of this market right now at £3.40. At around the 25th minute mark in the game, the time decay has started to slow considerably, because the odds were getting shorter and shorter, and each tick was starting to represent a higher and higher percentage of the overall book. So I started to put my lay bets in with shorter gaps between the tick increments, with my next £2.50 increment getting matched at odds of 1.40, and then another one being matched at odds of 1.33. And with that lay bet there, we put ourselves in a perfect position that, even in the event a goal is scored, we would still be able to cash out for a profit from this trade. So it is now a risk-free position. In fact, it's actually a win-win position. But that doesn't mean we don't need to continue to manage the trade carefully, because we still want to maximise our profit from this trade. I now only have £7.50 left of my position, which I need to get out of the market. £2.50 of that I cash out at odds of 1.25. Obviously now the odds are getting very short now. The time decay gets excruciatingly slow, anywhere below odds of 1.2. So now I'm looking to get out of this position completely, which I actually end up doing at half time by greening up odds of 1.17 to net a profit from this trade of £6.45. This match was a really good example of benefiting from a slow start. I could have obviously got more profit from this strategy if I cashed out in a single increment, so backed at the start and then single exit at 1.17. That would increase my overall profit, but there's more risk involved there because if a goal was scored, I'd have to cash out, probably for a loss. So I was happy to sacrifice that decrease in profit for less risk. How many times has a team that has been odds on to win a game let you down by not going on to win the game, either by losing or drawing? This next trade is benefiting from that very thing, and it is using the strategy of laying the favourite. The name of the strategy pretty much explains exactly what you're doing. You're obviously laying the favourite here. Favourites can start off at very short odds, and if they are struggling to break down a defensively stubborn team, or in fact they actually concede the first goal in the game, the odds on the favourite can move out massively and you'll be able to net a nice profit. The principle of laying the favourite was something that I thought I could capitalise on in this game between West Ham and Watford in the Premier League. West Ham started this match priced at odds of 1.56 to win the game. And make no mistake about it, West Ham did deserve to be the favourites in this game. However, models that I use for both XG and goal scoring data showed that odds of 1.56 rather did flatter them. They deserve to be favourites, but the price should have been higher, in my opinion anyway. Recently, West Ham have been a little bit dodgy at home, losing 2 of their last 3 home matches, and importantly, conceding 3 times in the previous 4 games first. And if they concede first, obviously we can get a profit there. Watford have been, well, terrible, really, in all honesty. 5 away games without a win. They have in fact drawn their last 2 games, but admittedly, those draws were against fellow strugglers, Newcastle and Burnley. But it is still a little bit of a sign that they could be sorting themselves out defensively. And if his time at Crystal Palace means anything, new manager Roy Hodgson is going to get them sorted out at the back as a priority. So my thought process for this game was that in all likelihood, to be profitable from this trade, I would need the game to get to half time at 0-0. West Ham's price would drift and I'd be able to trade out for a profit. And there was an outside chance that Watford could get the first goal in the game and I'd be able to cash out for a much bigger profit. And obviously, if West Ham scored in the first half, I'd have to cash out for a loss. So I went into the market and laid West Ham at odds of 1.56 with a £10 stake. And this gives me a liability, or an effective stake, of £5.60. And my plan was to exit out at half time if there was no goal scored, and cash out immediately if either of the 2 teams scored. Given those potential outcomes, I used BetAngel's Soccer Mystic feature to help me predict my potential wins and losses for each potential outcome. It predicted that if the game was 0-0 at half time, West Ham's price would drift to about odds of 2.1, which would give me a profit of approximately £2.50, which is almost a 50% return of investment from that £5.60 liability. If the trade went against me and West Ham scored first, West Ham price would come in quite a lot, obviously, all the way down to about 1.19, and meaning I'd have to take approximately a £3.10 loss, which would be approximately a 55% loss. So with a 45% potential win and a 55% potential loss, this trade would need a 50% strike rate in order to be profitable in the long run. In fact, I'd need a little bit over 50%. But this is actually before we've taken into consideration the chance of Watford scoring first, and that would give us a relatively big win for this position. If West Ham did concede, the price would drift to about odds of 3.5, giving me a potential profit of around £5.40, almost 100% return of investment. It's almost impossible to work out exactly what my strike rate would need to be in order for this trade to be profitable in the long run, without knowing the precise probabilities of either team scoring or neither team scoring. However, I did still believe it was a position which was in my favour just due to how low West Ham's starting price was. The price of West Ham drifted out rather quickly when the game went into play. The price had reached odds of 2.0 at around the 30th minute mark. And remember, Soccer Mystic had predicted that the price would be around 2.1 by half time. So the price appeared to be drifting out faster than expected. At this point, I was undecided on whether I thought the price would continue to drift or if the drift had been too quick and the price was now going to start to stall. If I did believe that the price was going to stall, now would be the time to just cash out of this trade early, because there wouldn't be much point leaving the trade open. However, if West Ham's price was going to continue to drift at the same rate towards half time, maybe the price would go all the way out to like 2.5 or something, and I'd get a much bigger profit though. However, my thoughts on if the price was going to continue to drift or if the price was going to stall at this point weren't strong enough, so I decided to stick with what my original plan was, which was to cash out at half time or if either team get the goal. And sadly for me, the price did stall here at the magical odds of 2.0. I really should have expected that to happen in hindsight, but I missed that really, and then I spent about 10 minutes in the trade not improving my position with the odds stalled at around odds of 2, but it did eventually drift to odds of 2.2 in the final 5 minutes before half time, and I was able to cash out at this price, slightly higher than our predicted price on BetAngel of 2.1. I did in fact cash out a couple of minutes before half time because I was tracking the attack momentum of the game, and it did look like West Ham were putting quite a bit of pressure on Watford, so I just decided that I'd get out of the trade a couple of minutes early. So I profited a nice £2.94 profit on just a £5.60 liability, and in fact West Ham did go on to score in the second half and eventually win the game, which it's always a nice feeling when you go on to profit from a trade where you know that if you just placed it as an outright bet, it would have actually lost. I saved the biggest winning trade of this video until last. The Champions League is back. The last 16 is here, and I love trading the Champions League because the money in the markets is massive compared to other football matches. And plus, Champions League football is fun to watch, right? So the game I was trading here was between Inter Milan and Liverpool, the first leg of the last 16 tie, and I was immediately drawn to Liverpool's price because I thought it was too big and therefore back value. I was looking at the price the day before the game, and Liverpool priced to win the match at odds of about 2.14, and I thought that was a very good price to back at, and let's find out why. Firstly, Liverpool are really good in this competition and at football in general. They've been one of the best teams in the world for several years now, and at any time they're priced above odds of 2 and it's not against Man City, my eyes really light up that this is a good opportunity. In the group stage for this season's Champions League, they didn't only go unbeaten in their 6 qualifying games, they actually won all 6 of their qualifying games in a notoriously difficult group, including Porto, Atletico Madrid, and a team that's currently above Inter Milan in the league, AC Milan. Liverpool also scored the first goal in 5 of the 6 qualifying games, which is good news for me because in a strategy where I'm backing a team, I'm going to be cashing out if they score a goal. And if they score first, that's obviously very, very good. Inter Milan's form in the group stages wasn't as good as Liverpool. They won half of their games and lost both of their games against the team in the group which could be regarded as top opposition in terms of Real Madrid. So if they lose twice to Real Madrid, are they going to stand much chance of shutting Liverpool out? I don't think so. The group games for the Champions League finished at the start of December, so things might have changed since then to now in February. You know, teams might have changed form, so it was important to look at the domestic form for either team. To me, when I looked at this data, it seemed like even more evidence to support backing Liverpool. Inter had been on quite a long winning streak until recently when they played 3 of the top 5 teams in Serie A and failed to win any of those 3 games, winning only this game against a team in the relegation zone. Admittedly, their home form had been incredible up until the most recent loss in the game against AC Milan. I really do think that the difference in quality between the Serie A and the Premier League is massive, and it clearly looks like Inter Milan are struggling to beat the better teams in Serie A. So when they come against the top 1 or 2 teams in the Premier League, I really expect them to not have a good chance of winning the game and a significant chance of actually losing the game. Liverpool are actually on a winning streak domestically, and despite this minor blip here, this 3-game blip, they are really in really good form. All of this data really made me think that Liverpool, priced at odds of 2.14, was really good value, and I was going to back them the next day, the day of the game. The following day, when I came home from work and opened up the market and looked at the price, I was astonished to see that Liverpool had in fact drifted all the way to odds of 2.34. I immediately backed at odds of 2.34 with a £10 stake because I expected the price to come back in before kickoff. I really have no explanation on what caused this drift of Liverpool's price. Was it team news? Well, Liverpool have no key injuries to any of the key players, so the team that Jurgen Klopp has picked was the team that he felt was the strongest to win this game. All the key players were playing, so yeah, the drift astonished me, but I'm not complaining because I was going to take this position anyway, and for the price to get bigger, it benefits me as it increases my overall profit. In terms of my exit points for this trade, both for a potential win and a potential loss, I was fairly confident that there was going to be goals in this game. I didn't think it was going to finish 0-0. So my exit point would just be after the first goal, either for a loss if Inter Milan scored first, or if Liverpool scored first, which I hope would be the case, I'd be able to get a profit. There was one caveat here: if Inter Milan scored really early in the first few minutes or so, I'd then be prepared to leave the trade open till about half-time to see if Liverpool could get back in the game. If they couldn't, then I would cash out at half-time there for the loss. By the time the game went in play, I was already in a profitable position, which was nice, but I wasn't looking to cash out because obviously I'm waiting for a goal to be scored. Liverpool started the game well, and the price came in all the way down to about 2.1, which again could have been another nice position to X out of this trade, but I had my mind made up that this was a trade based on actual goals being scored rather than just the movement of the market without any goals. Liverpool didn't end up scoring in the first half, unfortunately, and by the time half-time came, the price had drifted back out to about odds of 2.5. At this point, I was able to cash out for a 70p loss, if that was something I wanted to do, but I was confident in the way that Liverpool played to keep the trade open for the second half because I expected them to score in the second half. They really looked like they were still creating chances and wanted to go for the win in the game rather than settling for a 0-0 and taking it back to the home leg at Anfield to try and win the game there. Lo and behold, around 75 minutes into the game, Liverpool score a goal, Roberto Firmino gets the goal, and the price of Liverpool comes in to about odds of 1.3. Because there wasn't much time left in the game, I decided to do a partial cash out here to take off my £10 liability off the table, just in case Inter scored, leaving me with a risk-free position. Liverpool actually then go on to score a second goal in the game. The price comes in all the way to 1.01, and I cash out there for a £10 20 win, just in case there's some chance that Inter Milan scored 2 goals. What's that extra 20p or whatever it would be to leave the trade open? £10.22 is like 100% return of investment from this trade. Again, I could have got a little bit more profit if I didn't do the partial cash out, and that's what I did here. I was happy to sacrifice that few pounds of extra profit to have a risk-free position to take away the chance of losing, 100% of my stake. If you do want to see more trading videos like this, you can check out my growing catalogue of trading videos on my Patreon, link in the description. Many thanks to my Patreons who are supporting the channel already and making videos like this possible. If you're watching this video and you're struggling at trading, don't worry. We're all in the same boat here as traders, all trying to just improve at trading. But there is this one thing that could be holding you back, constantly keeping you in a never-ending rut of being a losing trader. And if you want to find out what that is and how you can correct it, check out this video right here.